Number two thing most new grads wish they had learned in nursing school is real world clinical skills. Am I right? Like nursing school teaches you the best that they can about the theory behind medical practice, and they give you skills labs. But then when you get out into the real world and you're like starting IVs and you're handling emergencies and like learning how do I really get that like EC clamp on that bag and bag at the right rate and like what is that really like? Let's face it, there is a gap between the theory and the practice in the skills lab versus what actually happens at the bedside. And that it can also be totally dependent on what hospital system you work for, because you may totally have your IV skills down at one hospital with a specific set of supplies, but then you go to another hospital and the supplies are completely different. And now all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I forgot how to start an IV, right? So, what I want you to hear from me is that nursing is always changing. Skills are always evolving. Equipment is constantly swapping in and out. And you could walk in one day and have something completely different and need to relearn those clinical skills. So, what I want you to take away from this specific topic, real world clinical skills, is that it's always changing and evolving. So, don't be so hard on yourself when you get in the real world or you've been doing it for 5 years and all of a sudden the equipment changes and you feel like you're brand spanking new again. I want you to know that that is okay. Become a chronic learner of clinical skills. Make the decision that no matter what changes, what shifts, whether you're working with a 105-year-old patient with super fragile veins or a 2-day-old baby with high bilirubin, or your jacked bodybuilder with like veins you could put a 16 gauge in, regardless, if you decide that you are going to be a master at starting IVs and drawing blood work and you commit yourself to that clinical practice in the real world settings, you will grow, you will learn, you will become a master at those skills if you make the decision to. So, number one, don't be so hard on yourself when you get out into the real world. If you realize that like what you learned like has a big gap between what's actually happening. And number two, have faith that all of these clinical skills are learned, which means that you are totally and completely capable of mastering these skills. Just dedicate yourself to being a learner and to falling into the practice of mastering each of these clinical skills. Like just decide that you're going to do it. And when you step into that decision and you dedicate yourself to growing your clinical skills, you're going to be just fine.